Hello, everybody. I just wanted to give you a quick little a little tip on replacing broken CGO3 plus slip ring wires on the Typhoon H. I've had a couple repairs come in where people have had unexpected landings, hard landings, whatever the case may be, tree trimming, doesn't matter, and it's come down and it's broken the little plastic little clips that they have and yank the camera from the top, and resulting in the wire being separated. So while looking at these and doing a couple repairs, I kind of realized that there's a little trick you can do with them so that you don't have to tear down the whole motor, basically, to take the camera pod off to access the slip ring motor. So we'll get right into her. So this is what you'll get when you order the replacement part. One little exception though, it'll have the little DF13 connector on it. And so the little trick I found, instead of having to tear apart the whole gimbal, basically removing the gimbal ball, letting it hang, and then removing, we'll get to it after, there's 6 screws that you have to access to replace the whole motor assembly. To work around that, what you can do is, when you order your new motor with slip ring, you can remove the wires from the connector. And I'll show you this. I'll give you a second to look at it to see the wire orientation. So it goes red, blue, black, yellow, white, green. And what you do is you take either a dental pick, something similar to such, or my personal favorite to use is just an old Olfa blade, just because it has the razor's edge on it. And all you need to do is, and there's tons of videos on here on how to fix them. Here, focus. There we are. Is just lift each tab very gently. You'll get a little bit of separation, and then you can take the pressure off and the wire will just slide right out. Just like so. So what you'll do is you'll go around and pop all those wires out, being very careful on not bending the tab too far back where it breaks, but just enough to release the clip. And then likewise, once they're all out, what you'll need to do is take the end and just push these tabs back in. Just run your fingernail across it. If you have any that are out of line that you may have moved, just push them back into place, and then set this piece aside. Next step you're going to do is, quite simply, is pull the slip ring through. So you're going to have to mess with the little clips. Just be gentle, don't yank on it, move them around. And then you'll be left with your slip ring. And this is the part that is most common to break when the craft lands and yanks the camera off. So next step then, we'll be able to place this all aside. Is to start tearing down the camera itself. The first step, well, there's many different first steps that you can do. I personally use my fingernails and pop off this bottom cap. Now, you can let it drop back and in behind to remove it. The next step, could have done this step first, is you're going to want to remove this retaining clip. So it's just a tiny Phillips. Place those very nicely into the cap that was provided to you by Unique. And just remove the retaining clip and put it off to the side. Now the next step, you're going to need a 5 mil Phillips, and you're going to want to remove the 4 motor mount screws that attach the bottom plate of the gimbal to the camera. Once you have those 4 screws removed, you can pop the bottom plate of the gimbal support off, collect your air and screws. All right. So the next step will be with your jeweler's Phillips. You're going to remove these 2 screws that hold the plastic bezel in place that cover up the connectors and the wires. Same thing. Put them off to the side. Be very careful with these ones because they're kind of small, and if you drop them, you're going to be looking around for them. Okay. Now, once you have those screws removed, very gently press down on the face, and there's 2 little locking tabs where it's locked in back here. You're just going to want to kind of pull it out and down and around that, and the same thing on the other side, out and around, and it should drop down freely. The easiest way I found to remove it is you tilt it on its side with the camera and just roll it back into place, or roll it out, vice versa. Okay, so now that we have that removed, we've now accessed the 6-pin connector that comes up through the slip ring and connects to the torn wires. So you're going to want to disconnect that, and the easiest way I found with these ones is if you hook your fingernail onto the corners of the connectors, you can walk it out ever so gently, because you don't want to rip the connector off the board because you're planning on still using the camera. Now you have one of 2 options to do here. You can either just snip the wires, because this is no more good because it generally breaks off flush at the slip ring. I don't know if you can see that here. There's supposed to be 6 wires coming up, and they just tear off flush. So you have one of 2 options. You can just cut this off, or if you're a geek like me and want to reuse it in some way, shape, or form, there's still 3 good wires there that you can run power, ground, and a signal through, and then you have still a working slip ring motor. So we'll do that next. We'll pop these little clips out, and we'll get this motor, the slip ring, prepared to come out. So this is a little bit harder than when you have your replacement motor handy, because you have a lot less room to work with. So the first thing that you want to do is kind of push the wires back into the connector, and that releases tension on the clips. So if you can, just give it a little push back in. And then what you want to do is grab your tool of choice that I've misplaced. And we'll go with the Olfa blade. And we're just going to lift the tabs ever so gently. So there's that little bit of separation. You can take the pressure off, and then the wire itself should just pull right out. So you're going to repeat that process through the other 5 wires. Also, another thing you want to do is note its orientation, but not only just the orientation, the way the clips are coming out. So there's I guess, a bulbous end, and then there's just a little tab. I don't know if we can see it on there, on the other end, closest to my fingernail. The little tiny tab is what clips on to these little retaining pins. So the big bulbous end goes to the flat side. So keep popping these off as we go along. Just very gently loosening them up. You don't want to put too much pressure on them because they will break off, and then you're either repurposing another one if you can find one. And this is more speaking to when you're taking apart the new slip ring, because you do have two chances at it, because you do have the one that's coming on your unit and then the one in the replacement. And you can, if you'd like, you can lift all the tabs and then just kind of pull the connector out. But I've had it happen in the past where the connector hasn't been crimped properly at the factory, and you think you have it out and you give that little tug and the wire actually comes out of the crimp. And then you're in a world of hurt, because these things are really tiny and they're kind of a pain in the butt to connect up again, to recrimp. So from there, I was thinking I was going to have some difficulty passing it back through, because there's very little clearance, as you can tell, between the bearing and the housing itself. And I was thinking I needed to run a chase back through there, but as it turns out, you don't need to do that. The one thing you do need to do is just be a little careful when you're pulling it through, because there are other wires that are running around inside there and the other circuit board, and you don't want to grab one of them. So what you can do is take a pair of needle or tweezers and just help kind of lay them all flat. Slowly give it a little tug. If they get clipped up there, just give them a little lift up. And with a little bit of patience, should be able to get them all through. There we go. So there's our damaged slip ring motor removed. Now, basically, to put it back together, it's the same process, just obviously in reverse. So what we're going to do is, we're going to take the new slip ring motor, kind of just push the wires all together so they're in a nice little bunch, kind of give them a little, straighten them out, make them sit all nice and pretty. And then the next step you're going to want to do is, you're going to need a piece of, I just tore apart an old phone wire and just took out one of the wires, but anything, a piece of string, piece of fishing line, anything should work for you. What you're going to want to do is, you're going to take your wires, you're going to fish them through your hole, and what you're going to do is, you're going to see them start to poke out. So pull the wires back just enough that you don't see them anymore, that they're just inside the housing. Then take your wire and pass it through the gap in between, like so. Then what you do is, you push your wires back in and use that to pull your wires over that little hump. And then it's just a matter of pulling them all back through individually. And then once you get them all out, and you can count that you have 6 wires there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm missing one. There it is, number 6. You could push the slip ring back in a little bit more, the motor itself, and you'll have access to these 6 wires. Now, same process as removing, just in reverse. So what we're going to do is, we're going to take our connector again, because we're so SMRT, and we wrote it all down on what it was. And here it is again. So the locking tab side, focus, locking tab side facing up will be red, blue, black, yellow, white, and green. And likewise, if it's facing the other way, it'll be green, white, yellow, black, blue, red. So if you're going to start facing up this way, if you're going to start the wires with the red on the right, you're going to want that bulbous end. Where are we here? You're going to want this fat end here to be facing up, like so. So you'll have the solid side of the connector facing you, and you'll have that bulbed end. Where is it? Come on, focus, focus. You'll have that bulbed end up against that side, like so. Okay, so onwards we march. So we have our beautiful little example piece here. We're going to be extra careful around these wires because they're very fine, and they're really easy to rip up, so don't want to be doing that. So we're going to start with the green wire to the left side, pretty much opposite of how we took her apart. So we're going to have that bulbed end sticking up, and we're going to slip her in place. So the other thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to take a pair of fine pliers or needle nose tweezers, sorry, and just give the wire a little push in there. Be gentle. It's just silicone wire. You will tear it if you're not gentle. So take your time. Now we're on the white wire. So we got green. You know what? You guys get the picture. So basically what we did to take it apart in reverse, do it again. Wish you guys all the best of luck. Any comments, questions, post them below. Have a good day.